Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be focusing on these little bad boys, SD cards, making sure that you buy the right one for you. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Steve Gerard. I am a dad, a husband, a sometimes scuba diver and music addict, but I am also a professional photographer, have been since 2007. And today we're going to talk about SD cards. Now you might have yourself a nice fancy camera. This is my Canon 5D, but this Canon 5D, although kind of expensive, is not much use unless I put a memory card inside. And if you want an SD card, you want to make sure that you're buying the right one for you. Now, cards, like any kind of technology, have progressed a lot over the last few years. I have two cards here, and if you ask some people which one they think can hold the most pictures, they probably think that one because it's bigger in size. But actually, this is 256 megabyte. Now, with my camera taking images which are about 30 megabytes each, I can get less than 10 pictures on this card now. Whereas this one, 128 gigabyte, I can get around about 4,000, probably more than 4,000 pictures on that one compared to 10 on that one. Now, some of these little things go up to 2 terabytes these days, which is insane, but for me, 128 gig, maybe 256 gig is more than enough for me as a photographer that shoots things like weddings and concerts and portraits. But there's a lot of things you need to consider before you decide which card you spend your money on. Now, I would say that the 4 things you really want to be thinking about when you're choosing a card are, number 1, and most importantly, reliability. And then secondly, things like speed, capacity, and then price. But there's really no point in having a fast, big, cheap card if it's not going to be reliable. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that all your pictures that you take are going to be safe on that card until you transfer them to your computer. So let's talk about which ones are the most reliable. So get this, in a recent poll, 47% of photographers said they'd had a card fail on them. Now that is nearly half the people have had a card fail on them at some point. Personally, I have had 2 cards in my entire career that have failed on me. Neither have been complete disasters, but it is something that you want to be very, very wary of. These days I have the added advantage of having a camera that has 2 card slots, so I can have 2 cards in my camera, which means that every picture that I take is getting backed up automatically. So even if a card does fail, hopefully the other card has got everything safely backed up onto that as well. But I have to say, it's been over 10 years now since I've had a card fail on me, and the cards that I've been using over the last few years have been consistent, and I'm happy to recommend them to my friends and other photographers, and I will be happy to recommend them to you. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty about what you might be looking for. So what about capacity? That is how much data you can get onto the card. Like I say, I've been using 128 gig cards consistently over the years. But if you're shooting video, maybe you want to consider going higher than that. If you're not shooting things like weddings and you're not taking as many pictures, then you can maybe save yourself some money, get something lower. But I would say probably at least 64 gig would be a good starting point. I tend to like the higher ones. I'd probably go up to 256 at this point, just because my camera's taking 30 megabyte images on average. And on a typical wedding day for me, I can take at least 4,000 pictures on 2 cameras throughout the entire day. And the last thing I want to do is be in a situation where my memory card fills up at a moment where something is happening that's important or that I definitely want to capture. Now, the speed of the card is important too. If you're shooting something like a wedding or concerts like I do, and there's action, or maybe you're doing sports and things are happening really, really fast, the last thing you want is a card that's slow, that you're going to be buffering and it's trying to keep up with what you're taking. So a fast card in almost any situation is going to be a benefit for you, but try and get the fastest card that you can afford. And when I say the fastest card, I really mean the right speed, which means how quickly, when you're taking pictures, it is transferring the information onto the card and saving it onto the card for you. The read speed means how quickly it's going to transfer from the card through the card reader to your computer, which isn't as important as when you're actually taking the pictures and you want to be able to capture things as they happen. The read speed on a card tends to be sometimes about double what the write speed is. And you'll find that when you look at a card and it has that speed on it, it's often the read speed. Whereas what you really want to know is what the write speed is. So don't be fooled by that big number on the card. It's not always the one you really want to be paying attention to. Now, what about brands? Now, the brands that I've used pretty consistently over the last few years have been either SanDisk or Lexar. As far as reliability is concerned, to my knowledge and after researching for this video, I think they're almost exactly the same, but SanDisk is the more popular card. Okay, so what some of you might want to know is what card do I personally use on a regular basis and have I used consistently recently? And I have 3 DSLR cameras that come with me to every wedding especially, and every single one has this card. And this is the SanDisk Extreme Pro SDXC UHS 1. I just think it's the best all-rounder. So I don't shoot that much video, but I do shoot video sometimes. And this card lets me get stutter-free video as well as letting me shoot fast when I'm shooting photography. There are some faster cards out there that are a little bit cheaper or of a similar price, but this just gives me reliability, speed, the capacity that I need, and comes from a brand that I've used consistently for the last decade. At the moment, I'm using 128 gig cards, like I mentioned, but if I bought a new one, I'd probably go up to 256. It just allows me to keep the images on the card a little bit longer. It's just an extra backup, so why would you not do that? So for best practice, I would say try shooting with a camera that has 2 slots because you're going to get 2 backups straight away. If a card fails on you, get rid of it. Don't try formatting it and hoping that it's going to be fine in the future. If it's been unreliable, then it can be unreliable again, and it's just not worth taking that chance. So get rid of it, buy a new one. But also be careful because there are some counterfeit cards floating around quite a lot. And I would just recommend purchasing your card from a reputable dealer, somebody who you've used before or somebody who you've been recommended by somebody you trust. I would avoid using somewhere like eBay to buy cards, and even on Amazon, just be careful, read the reviews, make sure you're buying from a reputable supplier with the good reviews. So recently when I've bought these cards, I bought them from B&H in New York, and you can see at the moment they're only $33.49, which is in US dollars, but I think that's a really, really good price for a 128 gig card. And you can see there it's #1 seller. So it's not just me, but actually this is the card that I would probably buy now. Twice as big, everything else is the same, and it is a bit more expensive, but it's hardly worth mentioning. If you guys are interested in my backup process, how I get my images from the card onto my computer, then there's a video for that, and I'll leave a link in the description below. If this video was helpful at all, please just do a little bit of a like, and that would be really, really appreciated. And if you want to see more videos, then you know what to do, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, see you guys.